So we stopped at number 29, I think. Yeah, we covered these different types of workers. And now we are moving to the Buddher Behedam for the distinction of Buddhi. So, Buddher Behedam Dhriteshchaiva Gunatach Trividham Shrinu Prochyamanam Asheshena Prithaktvena Dhananjaya. The reason, Buddhi, is also persistence, Dhriti, are of three kinds according to the qualities. Hear them related unreservedly and severally. So in all the details, literally, Prithaktvena, in all the details means separately, in all the properties of these three types. So here we are. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha karya karye bhaya bhaye bandham moksham chaya vetti buddhi sapartha satviki. We didn't read this before, no? So buddhi, sattvic buddhi, is that which sees the law of action and the law of abstention, from action. So pravritti and nivritti, the thing that is to be done and the thing that is not to be done, karya karye, that which is to be done karya, and which is not to be done akarya, bhaya bhaye, and that which is to be feared and not to be feared. What binds the spirit of man, bandham, and what sets it free, moksham cha, that understanding is sattvic. Buddhi sa sattviki. Buddhi is feminine gender, that's why sattviki is feminine gender. So the sattvic buddhi is that which sees what liberates us and what makes us bound, what is to be feared, what is not, what is to be done, what is not, what is to be started and what is not to be started in action. It's quite a lot, to know from such buddhi. If we would have sattvic buddhi, we would be always correct in our life and action. And then I will read three of them for buddhi, and then we may discuss. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyam eva cha athayavat prajanati buddhi sapartha rajasi. Very simple definition of rajasic buddhi. I was looking for the next shloka, whether it is continuing with the rajasic, no? So that by which one knows, ori, right? I don't know what it is, this word. It's kind of unusual. You know the meaning? Ori. A miss.
Awry, yes, a miss.
Awry. So that one knows awry, right and wrong, which one kind of wrongly right and wrong, and also what should or should not be done wrongly. That understanding partha is rajasic. So everything what we know wrongly is rajasic. Everything what we know rightly is sattvic. Amazing, yeah? Maybe it has some other connotation, this aurai, yes? It has some other?
It means sort of skewed or...
Skewed, shifted.
Yes. I wonder if that's really the word that's intended there. Sometimes if things are scanned and by
Or could be
Careful.
a mistake in the printing, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah, but
OCR sometimes goes amiss. I think that above there was a V, a TAG, where the in another verse where
oh yeah, yes.
TH and
Was
then
there. Yes, I read it as there, as an article, because it was wrongly printed, yes. But that I recognized. But yes, but this word is most probably it's a right word for, so.
Awry?
Awry, yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be very fitting. You say a picture on the wall, if it's not hung straight, it's awry.
Okay, tilted,
Yeah.
kind of misplaced, yeah. Misaligned, very good word, misaligned. That means it's not totally, truly aligned. It is kind of reaching, but not totally. It's there, but it is not properly there.
Or, possibly sloppily done or thrown out of line.
Very nice. So that is Rajasic. Rajasic will have always that gap of precision. There will be never totally precise because of its excessive energy and desire and egoistic involvement, yes, which would demand the particular approach to the action or to the thinking. It would always, how to say, paint with its own desire the picture, exaggerate somewhere or belittle somewhere as it is in accordance with one's own desire. So this is Rajasic and Tamasic. We will read then Sri Aurobindo's points here, some of them. Adharmam dharmam iti ya manyate tamasavrita sarvarthan viparitancha buddhi sapartha tamasi. And the tamasic buddhi is that which enveloped in darkness, takes what is not the true law and upholds it as the law, and sees all things in a cloud of misconceptions. And that understanding of Partha is tamasic. So that mainly which sees the white, the black, the white, and the opposite, yes. So it takes the law, the true law, and upholds it not the true law and upholds it as the law. So it creates its own law, so to say. It's like a criminal law. Criminals also have their own laws, but their laws are totally made up by them. So, but that is still buddhi, interesting, because buddhi is a higher reason. It's a pure reason. Yes, it is the mind which operates by conceptions. It's a conceptual mind. It's not a mind, sense mind. It's not manas, which operates by feelings, emotions. Buddhi operates by ideas, concepts, and in that sense, also it can be bewildered. Totally. It's not already, it's something more than misalignment. It's something bigger than that. Tamasic buddhi. Sarvarthan viparitancha. Yeah, all the meanings are turned upside down, as it were. So. Interesting. And it is buddhi. It's not the action, it's the way of thinking, conceptualizing life, viewing life and its purpose from the highest point of view, from the highest mentality man can have. Okay, something is here written by Sri Aurobindo. We may read it. So that understanding is sattvic, and here he gives his footnote. Let us read that footnote. The Sat's doer, the reason. The reason armed with intelligent will works in man in whatever manner or measure he may possess these human gifts, and it is accordingly right or perverted, clouded or luminous, narrow and small or large and wide, like the mind of its possessor. It is the understanding power of his nature. This is buddhi, very good definition of buddhi. And then he continues, buddhi, that chooses the work for him, or more often approves and sets its sanction on one or other among the many suggestions of his complex instincts, impulsions, ideas, and desires. So buddhi will be choosing. It's like a free will in us. It is that which determines for him what is right or wrong, to be done or not to be done, dharma or adharma. And the persistence of the will is that continuous force of mental nature which sustains the work and gives it consistence and persistence. Here again, there is the incidence of the gunas. Incidence. Something else, incidence. Such rare words for me also. Right. These are all Latin words in English. Sri Aurobindo was well versed in Latin, so he uses it extensively. So the culmination of the sattvic intelligence is found, it's about sattvic buddhi, is found by a high persistence of the aspiring buddhi when it is settled on what is beyond the ordinary reason and mental will, pointed to the summits, turned to a steady control of the senses and the life of a union by yoga with man's highest self, the universal divine, the transcendental, the transcendent spirit. It is there that arriving through the sattvic guna, and sattvic guna is the major guna of buddhi, one can pass beyond the gunas and climb beyond the limitations of the mind and its will and the intelligence, and sattva itself disappears into that which is above gunas and beyond the instrumental nature. There the soul is enshrined in light and enthroned in firm union with the self and spirit and Godhood. Arrived upon the summit, we can leave the highest to guide nature in our members in the free spontaneity of a divine action. For there is no wrong or confused working, no element of error or impotence to obscure. Or distort the luminous perfection and power of the Spirit. There is nothing of the kind there. So all these lower conditions, laws, dharmas, cease to have any hold on us. The infinite acts in the liberated man, and there is no law but the immortal truth and right of the free spirit, no karma, no kind of bondage. This is something amazing if you think of, especially from that point of view of buddhi, one can do any action. And even seemingly wrong action by the mind, manas, sense mind, or wrong action by some other considerations of dogma, it will be the right action to follow. And this is something we understand with difficulty. We don't understand why Krishna tells him to fight and go against his, his gurus and his relatives in the battle. But because he doesn't have that buddhi, that highest vision, understanding what the divine wants from us now. We are all here building up for the divine, the embodiment. We have to bring more and more luminous forces into action. And sometimes it looks like absolutely unjust for us, for our vital being. Yes? It is cruel, it is wrong, but it is wrong for the vital being, but it is the only way where how the divine wants to speed up the whole process of embodiment and to bring more and more luminous forces. And that's how we also look at the wars. Yeah, we see the wars as disgusting. We want peace and harmony and progress. We don't want the clash and fight and suffering of people. But there is something higher there. When the war comes, there is no more compromise in the ideas. There is a clarity which comes in, clarity of the spirit, clarity of the mind. When I see the soldiers of Ukrainian army, how they speak, how they smile, they are happy, they are in the balance. And then I think, wow, look at this. Where would you have this ever? In the normal life, you would never get at that state. Because in the normal life, we are confused. There are too many compromises, too many things to consider, too many strings attached everywhere, yes? We do not know what is the right way to go. In the war, it's clear. It's like everything becomes clear. You see who you are. Death is breathing into your neck, and you feel the clarity. And it's interesting because Heraclitus said about this, yes, that the war is the father of all things, and Sri Aurobindo has the whole article on it. Yeah? The war is the father of all things, speeding up through the fight, through the clarity. Somewhere Sri Aurobindo was highly speaking about samurais, that with death they measure the truth, They go and if nothing works, then only sword works. Sword is a symbol of the truth. Also interesting. We can't understand these symbols. Yeah? They are the divine symbols of speeding up the manifestation. We see only the suffering because from the level of the vital, there is a lot of suffering. But from the level of the embodiment of the divine, it has to go on. It cannot stagnate in a specific, particular, harmony, so-called, which is stagnating and which leads nowhere, only to tamasic sleep. It needs a breakthrough. It needs a new energy, and it cannot do it without that clash and fight.
This point number one is very important because it goes beyond sattvic buddhi to sarva dharman parityaja. So it's foreshadowing that sort of culminating message of the Gita to abandon all dharma to the Lord, to the highest Purusha, and so it's he's discussing it here in terms of the three gunas, but Sri Aurobindo goes way beyond the three gunas here to explain it in terms of abandoning dharma. The gunas, the dharma of the three gunas, are only stepping stones toward going beyond those three gunas.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So that I think to me it's the most challenging thing in the philosophy of the Gita is to how to surrender one's will, one's thoughts, actions, and intellect, will to the supreme without falling into some kind of subjective, egoistic self-delusion. Because you have to have the opposite. The buddhi has to be undiluted in order for it to work.
Well, the answer is sattva, more sattva. Sattva grows into the beyond. So sattva is the passage to the beyond. So sattvic buddhi has to be established. That's why so much insistence on this equanimity of, So all that has to build up the sattvic buddhi, which will allow us to kind of grow into the beyond gunas state of the self.
Yeah,
but for me, more interesting here, that is quite known, and so for so long, this is the very gist of the Veda, of the Gita,
Mm-hmm.
That sattva leads to the beyond. But for me, this statement is more challenging or interesting. That's what I was trying to talk about. Arrived upon the summit, we can leave the highest to guide nature in our members in the free spontaneity of a divine action. For there is no wrong or confused working. And no wrong, it doesn't mean that there is no wrong for the lower members. So it is no wrong from that point of view. But for the vital and lower vital and physical, there can be a lot of wrong. They may cry and say, "What are you doing?" What like Arjuna cried to Krishna the same way. "What are you wanting me to do? To kill these people? This is totally wrong. You're going against the dharma," he tells Krishna. But from the point of view of that, when your consciousness is there, you see what is demanded, what is asked, what is wanted, and you will have to accept it. Well, you don't even have to accept it. You're accepting it by being there already. There is no wrong there. To give your life, to die is no wrong. There, in that state of consciousness. But in this lower one, when the higher is not there, it's very difficult. It's a very wrong thing to do.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that war is always good, or war, the warrior.
Oh no, definitely no. I
So,
don't say that the war is always good. I mean to say there is something in which we do not see. Usually this is something which always escapes us. And that is that when the war comes, it's wrong. We know it. Everybody is against the war. Everybody. And it is right. I'm not saying it's wrong. On one level of consciousness. On the other, you will look at it and you will see, for example, this war between Ukraine and Russia is reestablishing the ideal for the future. It cannot go on in that format of the, dictatorship or some kind of injustice, total injustice in the form of justice, this tamasic, criminal rule of Russia over their own people. Peoples, there are many peoples living in Russia who are not Russians, and they are all suppressed and bewildered and robbed by the criminal clan. And these are criminals on the top of power. And plus KGB criminals, it's the worst kind. And so it has to be destroyed, that thing, for humanity to grow. And the ideals in the West of the democracy, of the freedom, of liberty, equality, fraternity were all also veiled and fading away slowly. So they had to be reconstituted or re-established, as it were, rebooted. And so the West is doing it. So the war called to all these, forces to come back. So it is from the higher buddhi, but from the lower you see the suffering of the people and you think, what the heck is going on? And my heart is aching. Every morning I rush to the news to see what has happened, with these wars, how many people that died and killed and what else. So,
yeah, well, that war is a perfect example of action that in some ways may look like it, to an unenlightened intellect, it looks like unenlightened action. But to the enlightened intellect who's not afraid of death and dying and not even afraid of sin, um, it's seen as a right war. But Arjuna had the huge advantage, the obvious advantage of having Krishna right there to tell him. And it also makes it a lot easier for us to understand the Gita. Without that, we wouldn't have the master key to understand it. But how about the rest of us? Because the Gita is clearly oriented towards other readers and not just Arjuna. Even Arjuna's questions go way beyond what he needs to do to finish the job in the war. He asked, for him who's in chapter 17, him who throws away the Shastras and sacrifices according to his own manner, what's his state? So that's all of chapter 17. In chapter 18, Arjuna says, he starts out asking between sannyas and tyaga, renunciation and detachment, which is better? Or he wants to understand those two. He doesn't ask which is better in this one. He asks, what's the? Please explain these in detail. And so all of the 18th chapter, the longest chapter, is explaining sannyas and tyaga. Obviously, for people who would hear the story later. I mean, it's like a literary device to insert the message.
Yeah, from this we can see that the very war is the means, yes, for practicing the spiritual renunciation and detachment. So if you can think of anything like this, that the spiritual testimony, the spiritual scripture is written in the moment of the war, before the war breaks through. Already the arrows are in the air flying, and in that moment Krishna stops the chariot and starts talking about the renunciation and what it means to be spiritual. This is an amazing challenge. It's actually the thing which is, it's like a golden probe, you try it and you know whether it is true or not, because the worst conditions for spiritual teaching can't be. This is the most challenging situation in which spirituality can be delivered or pointed at. So if you can understand that in that moment, that means in any other conditions, it would be totally applicable.
Yeah, so I think that, would you say that the standard Vaishnava interpretation would be that we always have to be tuned to Krishna, and a broader, more universal understanding was we always have to be tuned to the highest. So we have to be attuned to the supermind, really.
Well, supermind is beyond, but still, yes. Even higher buddhi, even sattvic buddhi, is already a big achievement, which leads us to that state in which, as he says, a firm union with the spirit and the Godhead, where everything is, in a free spontaneity of the divine action. This state to get is a huge achievement, yeah. And there is no wrong of dying. And as he says, by killing, you are not killing. And if you're thinking that you are killing, and the one who is killed thinks that he is killed and being killed, it's all wrong, because you do not have that vision. You do not see. If you only see that element in the bigger picture, you don't have, and so only one small element, smallness, then it creates a totally wrong perception of the things.
Mm.
We will all be born and die again. That's he started the second chapter. So don't worry about that. He wanted to remove that thing, that fear from Arjuna of being killed or killing, because killing is a strong word. Yeah, we are all resisting this action altogether. This is the worst we could imagine. So on that ground, he teaches his spirituality.
Yeah. Well, do you think that unfolding the psychic being is tantamount to tuning in with the guide to action that's beyond the sattvic?
Psychic being, I do not see much here in that regard. Yes, it is there, like Jiva, he mentions this, but it is not that to rely on it or something. It is to rely on the universal Godhead, yes, to give oneself, to surrender to the divine. I think this is more, and that surrendering to the divine is the psychic action only. Yeah? Only the psychic can do it. So in that sense, it is there, yes. But I don't remember anywhere it is clearly defined or as a concept even, yeah? Except in one chapter 9, Jiva and Purushottama. But interestingly, it's only through Sri Aurobindo's essays on the Gita I understood how the psychic being can come into being, because without Purushottama, who is there behind, yes, behind impersonal state of Satchitananda and Asat, and behind this state of Kshara Purusha, or the Aparaprakriti of mind, life, and body, there is someone, some personality, person, as Mother says, the Supreme Person, who actually generates this and makes any psychic being an individual. Yeah? Without that Godhead, the individual soul would not be possible altogether. It would be something else. It would be some kind of presentation of some formation of forces acting in the name of some individual, element in time and space, which is different from other element of time and space. So in that sense, there will be some action between different formations, but not as a spark, as a true individual. And that is the psychic. Yeah? Only through Purushottama the psychic is possible to be born. And that is the representative of Purushottama here, who is evolving, notice, and growing and changing and becoming more and more like the Lord. He grows into him. That's how he wanted to be many. This is his way to do it. Yeah? So surrender of our nature to the divine, in the universal divine, actually speeds up that process of becoming the Lord in the individual form.
Yeah, I like that expression, that the psychic being is an expression of the Purushottama in the individual. In his essays on the Gita, Sri Aurobindo uses the term psychic 5 times, and he also uses psychical or psychically, but he doesn't say psychic being. So apparently he doesn't think it's important to explain this central teaching of the Gita. In fact, it seems to be, for me, it's more closely related to bhakti. He says the later bhakti of ecstatic love is at its root psychic in nature. It is vital, emotional only in its inferior forms or in some of its more outward manifestations.
Yeah, even in the Gita, there is not yet fully expressed that idea of the psychic being philosophically, though it's already philosophical literature. So it's quite amazing that it takes its form only later in Bhakti period. We see it more and more coming to the front. Antaryamin, Antaratman, all these terms, yeah. Chaitya Purusha is already of, 15th century AD. So it comes from already from the Chaitanya and from Kabir, from these, Mirabai, all this movement of bhakti which appeared 600 years back. But before that, there is hardly any kind of clarification of this being within us. In the Vedas, we have it. It is referred to in two forms. Agni. One Agni is in nature, Yajatra, and the other Agni is Priya, beloved, in the heart, flame in the heart. But that's it. There's no kind of insistence on this individual aspect of the divine in us. And there is no yet clarification of its growth and evolution. Though in the Veda, I believe Veda is an evolutionary writing. After Veda, after the Vedic Samhitas, we don't have that evolutionary concept. Only in this, the oldest Upanishads like Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam, all this is for habitation. That means it's not already, as Shankaracharya translates, all this is inhabited by the Lord. It's a wrong thing. It's not inhabited. Vasyam means to be inhabited by the Lord. And there is this dynamism. All this, the whole universe, whatever exists in the universe, is to be inhabited by the Lord. That means it's in the process. The Lord is growing in it. There is an evolution of consciousness.
Do you think that the psychic being didn't descend into individuals until after the early Upanishads?
No, it was there, but it became prominent later. In the evolution of consciousness, the individualization of the psychic presence we become aware of it later and develop the very ideas around it later. We focus on it later. Even look at the Mother and Sri Aurobindo. They, for the first time in the Indian, so to say, spirituality, they made this the central point of their philosophy.
Right. So you say the 15th, 16th century bhaktis, they use Antaryaman and Antaryatma instead of
Chaitya.
and Chaitya instead of psychic being, but they had the same general idea without having developed it.
Yes, and they have it, and they already speak about this. They already have this love towards the divine. Bhakti, it comes only from the psychic. It's loving the divine in every form, in nature, finding the divine in the cloud, in the sky, in the tree, in everything, in the wind, in the rain, seeing Krishna everywhere. This is only a psychic emotion which is breaking through. So, but this kind of prominence of the psychic love is not available anywhere in the Indian tradition. It started with the Ramayana. Actually, in the esoteric history, it is considered that the Ramayana was the first expression of that love. You will not find love so much in the, Upanishads, Brahmanas, or Samhita texts. There is no expression of love. They speak about bliss, but they don't speak about love of Rama to Sita, or Lakshmana to Rama, or Bharata to Rama, or Dasharatha to Rama. All those love relations are very new for the whole spiritual evolution. It comes later because of psychic becoming. We become aware of the psychic and its activities, and especially in Ramayana, when Lava and Kusha, these two sons of Rama, were going around and, singing Ramayana to the rishis in the forest, it is said that the rishis were in tears. They were crying, laughing. They were giving to them all their possessions, whatever possessions they could have, like one stick, walking stick. Other gave his plate from which he ate all his life, this wooden ladle. And so everybody gave them whatever they had as the present because they were so moved by the love in the heart, in the Ramayana. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So this is an amazing insight of how bhakti enters into this evolution of spirituality, which wasn't so prominent before. It was more about powers, truth, conquering the truth, becoming by the truth, conquering the darkness, establishing the light, the power, the truth, the bliss, but not love, not psychic love.
Yeah, that's a beautiful understanding. Does Sri Aurobindo discuss it in that historical sense of the literature?
I don't even think so. At least I don't know. Maybe, yes, Martha knows. Do you know somewhere Aurobindo discuss this?
No, I'm sorry, I don't.
It is known from the studies of literature, yes. Once you study Indian literature, kind of throughout, you will see it there. Yes, it is really, and of what I got a hint from Satprem discussing this with the mother, and where he asks, was there a psychic being in the Veda? She says, did rishis know about this? And she says, no, they didn't, but they discovered it, the presence of the flame in the heart. So I understood from these discussions with them that the whole idea, and from esoteric history is a very interesting subject. It views all religions, the shift from one cult to another. We spoke about this before, yeah? Like for example, in Judaism, you have Abraham, who wanted to sacrifice his son. This sacrificing son is the old religion, giving your nature to the divine, sacrificing all you have. There is no love there. So he was ready to slaughter his son on the stone, sacrificial, when he heard the voice, I don't need the body of your son. Bring me the lamb, pure and white and pure lamb. And lamb is the symbol of this psychic presence. There is love. You can love the divine. You don't need to give the divine anything. Just love, and everything will be done for you by the divine. So it's a totally different path. Very different from before, that you have to do tapasya, you have to make your effort, you have to achieve it. All these tapasvins, Vedic, you see them throughout tapasya. And then suddenly comes something else, surrender to the divine, whatever it may be. And you will have everything, what the divine wants you to be.
Yeah, so the Lamb of God is part of the Catholic Mass.
Absolutely. And that is so amazing when you read this in this in the Bible about the Lamb. He is the Lamb of God, and Jesus comes. Yeah, Jesus is the symbol of the psychic presence. That's why he says, "I am in the heart of every man. Only through me you can come to my Father." It's absolutely true. Only through psychic you can come to the universal divine. There is no other way to come there. And he is the only Son of God. Psychic is the only spark of the divine. The rest is just bodies upon bodies, forces upon forces. But the real one present is that Purushottama present in the soul. Yeah? And that is the only Son of God. So all these statements can be viewed differently.
So Jesus is not Godhead then.
Godhead. No, he's the Son of God. He is the psychic presence in humanity. It's like Satyavan, form of Satyavan, you know, soul of humanity.
This is interesting. I never thought of it like this.
Yeah, we can read it through the eyes of integral yoga, and it is very different Christianity. Then we have no problem with Christianity. You know? Christianity is welcome. Unless they will start insisting of you, baptizing you, putting you into water or something. So, and then, oh wow, the time flew. I can't imagine. Time flies with us like anything. I thought it was like 15 minutes or something. And it's already 50 minutes. So now about dhriti. Dhriti is also of three kinds. Dhriti is this perseverance or holding on to or resolution. How does he translate it? Let me see it somewhere here. Persistence. He translated it as persistence, perseverance, very close to it. Here it is. Dhrityaya dharayate manah pranendriya kriya yogena vyabhicharinya dhriti sapartha satviki. So that unwavering persistence by which through yoga one controls the mind, the senses, and the life, that persistence is sattvic. Interestingly, because it could be rajasic also, yes. You insist, and you get. But because it is persistence already in its own quality, it's already insistence, yes. So sattvic means unwavering. Interesting. Not deviating, holding on to. In the pure sense, holding to the pure persistence. And then, yayatu dharma kamarthan dhritya dharayate arjuna prasangena phalakankshi dhritiksa partha satviki, or sorry, rajasi. But that, O Arjuna, by which one holds fast right and justice, interest, artha, and pleasure, kama, and with great attachment desires for the fruits, that persistence, O Partha, is rajasic. So there is a persistence which is not insisting on the fruit, and there is persistence which insists on the fruit of action, and that is rajasic. Can you imagine persistence which does not insist on the fruit of action? It's quite a nice persistence. Huh?
Like love and unconditional love.
Love is a spontaneous thing. It does not really do. This is more like a ascesis of some kind, of tapasya. Yeah? It's like you have to hold on to it. It's dhriti, it's dharana, concentration. You make your concentration pure, you are sattvic. That means your concentration is predominant over the fruit over the result. You are not speeding it up for the result. Yeah. So you are holding the concentration, even though you could have jumped on the result already, but you don't do it. You let, so to say, this persistence to work itself out totally. And whatever the result, yeah? That is sattvic persistence.
Yeah, that connects dhriti to tapas. But,
Yeah, absolutely.
but
Tapasya.
yeah, and which is for Sri Aurobindo, that's concentration on the Supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or anything else, whatever it is.
yeah.
You may do something else here. For example, you have to clean your room. So you may clean your room with the mind of, oh, when will I finish it? I shall want to finish it before lunch, and already have to cook and so on, and so much time it takes. Okay, this corner I leave for the next. It looks like good enough. And here I don't need to really wash this. Maybe next time or something. And this I can throw into the corner somewhere where you don't see in the cupboard. So one can do that, and that is a Rajasic one. But one can clean the room without really waiting for the thing to be finished, yeah, so to say.
But there's also the tapas of concentration on the unbounded.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you change the object of your concern, yes, definitely.
Right,
you
right.
can go to the divine, and then it is the same. The same with the divine. You can concentrate on the divine and waiting when the divine will manifest. How long should I wait for the result? I gave you everything and you didn't give me anything. So I will rebel against you. This is very religious kind of persistence. Yeah? Or you can go on doing it in spite of nothing working out, and that is sattvic.
But it's also significant that Sri Aurobindo discusses, and Sri Krishna really, who discusses driti together with buddhi, and buddhi is not just intelligence.
Very nice,
it's intelligent will.
Very nice, very good thought. Thank you. This is great. Yes, dhriti and buddhi. Buddhi is a mind will. It's a free will, as it were, in our nature. And the dhriti is that power which is needed for its manifestation.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. So they work together beautifully.
Very nice. So this is the Rajasi dhriti, and there is tamasic. You can imagine what it is already. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madam evacha navimunchati durmedha dhriti sa partham tamasi. So that by which one from ignorance does not abandon sleep, fear, grief, depression, and also pride and that persistence of partha is tamasic. So pride is also interestingly part of the tamasic dhriti. Depression and also pride. That's madam, he calls pride. Madam is a kind of carelessness, yeah? More. Vishadam, it is the depression. Shokam is shock, grief. Bhayam, fear. Swapnam, sleep. So when sleep, fear, grief, depression, and carelessness with pride are the part of the persistence, then it is tamasic.
Can it be that the inner state is tamasic and the outer state, like senses taken from the sattvic spaces, and then the inner state changes? Like for example, if I'm not well, or I'm maybe stuck by, say, grief or fear, and if I go to samadhi in Pondicherry, then it's not there.
Yeah, I think it depends on your inner state more than outer. By the way, many people got different conditions for their embodiment. Maybe you got the conditions and your body and your mind and your vital were given for you with kind of with the reservation for you to do more, all kind of I have to find a way to tell you this. It's some people get worse conditions, outer conditions, for the sake of working more or for the inner being. And they chose it consciously. It is the choice of the soul. Let me take more challenging conditions, for example. For example, my conditions were totally challenging. I was born to the atheistic family in communistic country. Who could have thought that I would go somewhere and seek for something like this, study Sanskrit, look for the integral yoga and so on. They were very challenging conditions. And if I would stay where I was born, I would be most probably alcoholic with all those people who live there, all my kind of relatives in the village. They are total alcoholics. There is nothing else to do, only to drink and to work hard physically. But for some reason, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that maybe that is one way. Like, for example, if I would be where I was born, maybe I would be married and I would have some children by now if I wouldn't have rebelled and kept.
Could be. And maybe you are working out something very important which you don't see it, because the desire is pulling you in the one direction and your spirit pulls you in another direction. And later in your life, you will see that you are working out certain conditions of freedom for yourself in certain, It's the same with me, by the way. And only now when I'm 60 or nearly 62, I'm finally getting some peaceful conditions to work with myself and what I like to do. It's incredible. Only now it arrived finally. Till that, it was a constant fight and constant tension. It wasn't bad. I don't remember it as bad. It was very luminous and beautiful, because I don't remember it bad. But I remember that on the outer level, it was total misery always. There was always lack of money, always lack of proper conditions. From the point of view of the outer consciousness, it was wow, it was really not good. But from the point of view of the inner, it was exactly what I wanted. I needed.
But is it possible? I'm just thinking, this has been going on in my head since past couple of days, that because I feel it happening this time, that when you're constantly in a situation wherein you're struggling and you feel it in your body, like not like, because I feel like I put myself in situation and then I struggle and then I'm like, okay, I will do this, and I keep, then eventually I feel like it's not, my body is not able to completely learn, and it's again in the same sort of loop. But then I go to a space and then that is different, and I can receive light and I can receive luminosity, and I feel like it's just different. So I feel like, I don't know, is it telling me
I
that
don't think it's about space outside. I think it's more space inside. If you can find that space inside, believe me, you can be anywhere and you will be in the right. By the way, the most intense and most luminous yoga was in the Soviet Union, in the worst time of Soviet Union. It is 82, 83. That was Andropov in power, KGB. People were caught on the streets. People were taken from cinema. People sitting in the cinema, suddenly light, stop cinema, KGB checking why you are not at work. All kinds of things were happening. And that was the most luminous time for me, because I could sit in my room, alone and write my verses, my poetry to Krishna with full of love. There was overwhelming love, And so the outer conditions are sometimes pushing. There was nothing outside which you could rely on or find any support of. So relying on the outer conditions is really not the right way to go, I want to say. you have to find this within yourself. It is there. If you have it at samadhi, you will have it everywhere. So just find your samadhi within and rely on it in whatever conditions. Train yourself, or better, spontaneously rely on it. And then training is wrong word. Some people need training. Some are very naughty. I never could train myself. I'm very naughty. I need a spontaneous presence, I can't rely on something like rigorous doing every day. It kills my spirit. It dries it up.
Yeah. I'm
Also,
trying.
attachment to spirituality, like to experiences, to spaces, can also hinder the inner development, because sometimes if we get a very good experience in a particular place and we get so attached to it, I myself struggled with that for a long time. I used to be at the ashram, Delhi ashram, and then I missed it so much when I came over here, and then I realized that I was so attached, I couldn't do anything over here because I was grieving that loss. So that can become a great hindrance.
Absolutely. You are very right. So this is a great discovery. It's a great experience, though. You have inner connection. That is on what you have to build. And where you are, there you build your world. That should be so. When we come to India, we feel much more support immediately. Auroville, it's just that atmosphere. But look what people did with that atmosphere. If you live long there, you take it for granted, and you start not noticing it. You start taking it as if it should be so, and then you start doing stupid things. Ordinary life. You start introducing ordinary life into that. And that leads nowhere, only to the disaster. So basically what I want to say, you have to love the divine rather than the place where it is good for you. As simple as that. Because it is within your heart, and it is. So, okay, we are over time. Let us stop here today and continue from 36. I will close with mantra. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.